Well, here we are, back again after a couple of weeks break, firstly due to a holiday and secondly due to a bit of a health challenge. So, yeah, apologies for that, but back again now. UK, end of April, 11-degree high today. As ever, where's this global warming when you need it? It's been a long winter. It's still pretty cold today. Rain forecast this afternoon, and all in all, not pleasant really. Not great for this time of year anyway. Yeah, this week I thought I'd talk about second part of the DEI, the equity part, diversity, equity, and inclusion. We did diversity before. Now we'll move on to equity. Equity, equality, all that sort of thing. It's very much a buzzword of the times. The idea of equality. I kind of struggle with it, really, to say the least. United States Constitution, I think at the start it says something like, we hold it to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Fine sounding words, I think. It sounds like a lovely sentiment. Certainly if the idea was just to treat people equally before the law, or to provide equal opportunity, I would wholeheartedly go along with such a notion. But the idea that people are created equal, I think, personally I would say I hold it to be self-evident that all men are not created equal, or women for that matter. In fact, it's hard to find any equality in any way whatsoever. Whichever method you use for comparison, there is no equality. Not equally talented, equally tall, equally strong, equally capable, equally intelligent. Whatever kind of measure you wish to use, very few people are actually equal. And even within, if you found two scores being equal, they'd still have got there in different ways. People are not equal. We are all profoundly unequal. This idea of equality is a bit of a myth, I'm afraid. It's one of those nice sounding words. It doesn't actually mean anything in practice or anything useful anyway. Move on to cultures, I suppose. It's kind of presupposing that cultures are of equal value, that each culture has something to bring, and that we should respect all cultures. But I'm afraid again the reality is that cultures are profoundly different and profoundly unequal. If you look at, say, the culture of, I don't know, say the French, for example, and compare it with the culture of Mali or the Central African Republic, the contributions that they've made in the sense of literature, art, inventions, mathematics, philosophy, music, etc., are in no way equal. Far from it. At the stage of the Enlightenment in France, the people in Central Africa were not, there was no culture to speak of, no written word, no literature. Barely any mathematics going on, barely any philosophy, very simple religions. You invented a wheel, for God's sake. It's kind of ridiculous to pretend that cultures are in any way equal. You look at the contributions of China. I mean, China's been through many upheavals in its 5,000-year history, but many profound contributions. A deep and abiding culture, a culture that valued intelligence and capability, and has been at various times a very advanced culture. It's true they've gone through all sorts of upheaval, but much like India, India's profound contributions, most of Europe, or a lot of Europe anyway, profound contributions to human advancement, to human welfare. And you look at other cultures, barely any contribution or even any mark literally not even a mark, not even a scribbled note on a piece of, a tablet or something. In some places languages had not developed to the point where they could be written down and recorded. To pretend that cultures are in some way equal is profoundly silly, really. Got this huge dog here at the moment who's taking an interest. There we go. Famed at last. Good morning. Okay. Beautiful dog there. It's a nice part of Thetford Forest. A lot of people enjoy walking their dogs. So we have this sort of like pretense of equality where there is no equality. Because of this pretense, we then try to pretend that the reason that some people don't get on or whatever is because of some fault in the underlying culture, or institutionalised racism is a favourite. But a lot of the time what it actually means is some groups just do not do as well. Some people, individuals, do not do as well. And a lot of the time the reasons for them not doing so well are limitations within the groups or within the people. I think as long as you create equal opportunity, I think you should be fair to everybody. Give everyone an equal chance. But what we've probably come to is a situation where we believe that there's something terribly wrong with the culture or whatever, and the reason that some people and some groups do not do well. But the problem is not within the culture, it's within the groups themselves, in their approach, in their underlying culture. And that's what a lot of the time causes them to be held back or not to underachieve. But to blame the whole culture seems to be an easy way out. And so because of systematic problems within the culture. And what that's led to is things like schemes where they try to favour one group over another, and the kind of mistaken idea that somehow that's going to correct things. I think in America, for instance, they've got a theme, or had a theme for more or less 50 years. I think it's currently called Sure Start, but it's changed its name in various ways since the days of Lyndon Johnson's War on Poverty. It's been going about 50 years now, and actually nearly 60 years thinking about it. And really the results have been negligible. Hasn't made a lot of difference. There have been some measured IQ gains at the start for younger children, but they quickly disappear by the time the teenagers reach their late teens. Any gains previously made are lost. A lot of IQ seems to be hereditary. Again, that doesn't go down very well with many folk, but I'm afraid that's the reality. There's a lot of the hereditary factor is around about 75 or 80% of IQ. So you're not going to be able to impose through these sort of sociological interventions, you're not going to be able to make that much difference. You can grandstand as much as you like, but it's not going to change the situation. I think instead of trying to give people unfair advantages, to put them ahead because of their membership of a given group or whatever, the best we can do is to make sure that our societies are fair, and to give everybody a fair, proverbial fair crack of the whip, so that they're given equal opportunity. You should be able to apply for the job. If you're good enough for the job, you should be able to get it. I'm all for things like blind interviews and things like that, where you don't know the background, the race, or anything about the candidate, the sex, or anything about the candidate. You don't meet face to face. You just have to judge the candidate from their qualifications and from the interview results. Well, you don't interview face to face, but you use methods whereby you get all the information you wish, and then judge the quality of your candidate. Can they do the job? This should be the basic criteria for any organisation. Can they do the job? It should be the basic criteria for universities. Are the people that you're recruiting onto your course capable of actually completing the course and benefiting from it? Or are you just fulfilling some elaborate quota that somebody's dreamed up, that we need certain amounts of this group because of their race, this group because of their sexuality, this group because of their gender, etc., etc. It is not a good way forward. Now, attempts at imposing equality on the world have been made many times. This does seem to be something dear to the hearts of many people, particularly those on the left, socialist or even communist leaning. These attempts to equalise society have invariably ended in disaster, not just disaster but total disaster. Perhaps the most obvious is Cambodia under the Khmer Rouge. These were good morning, morning to the oh, I did, yeah. You okay? I got kicked over by a dog. Down, boy, down. There you go. Yeah, Pol Pot was partially educated in Paris. I think probably was there around about the times of the riots in 67, 68 and all that. But he had communist leanings. He tried to change his country to a profound form of communism. They'd set the clocks back to year zero, or the calendar back to year zero, and tried to start all over again by making everybody equal. Down to the point where they even took away people's names, would you believe? I believe Pol Pot was something like Comrade Number 1, or Citizen Number 1, and his assistant Number 2, and etc., etc., all down the line. So de-personifying people, making them almost like non-individuals. You were just a part of the state. And yeah, many policies whereby like intellectualism was frowned upon, reading books was frowned upon. You tried to make everybody as equal as possible. The result of that, after 3 years, was that they lost, to put a euphemism on it, they lost 1/3-ish, a quarter to a third of the population died, and sometimes died in the most awful circumstances. There's a lot of starvation, but there's also an awful lot of violence. It's a very stupid revolution. Much the same can be said of Mao Zedong in China, particularly in the Cultural Revolution, the attempt to impose equality on everything, to get rid of the old, and the ways of measuring differences between people. And yeah, again, millions died. I think Mao has the title of being the man who's been responsible for more deaths in human history than any other. I think closely followed by another communist leader, Joseph Stalin. The problem with equality, the basic problem, is you can't make people equal in abilities by increasing the abilities of those who are behind. You can only impose equality by limiting those who are in front. For instance, in a horse race, for instance, you'd handicap horses with the idea that they should all finish round about equal. You can do a very similar thing for people, but you can't do it the other way around. You can't make the slower horses run as fast as the quicker horses. Same with people. You can't make people who are less athletically talented run as fast as those who are athletically talented. You can't make the weaker. You can make some kind of attempts at it, but essentially stronger people will be stronger, weaker people will be weaker. And again, intelligence is a very obvious one. You can, so you cannot make less intelligent people more intelligent. It's intrinsic within us. There's a certain range of abilities. You can try to fulfill what's there, but you can't make somebody who just simply hasn't got the ability to be to act in highly intelligent ways. You just can't get them to do that. You just don't have the ability. It simply isn't there. So the only way you can make those people equal is to effectively handicap what the talented person, the intelligent person, can do. So you have this kind of levelling down effect. God knows we've seen it in schools in this country where they've gone for comprehensive education. The the effects of levelling down. That's that. You level down to the lower level. You can't bring the other pupils up to the standard of the best pupils. So essentially, you punish those who are good at doing things. And of course, you can imagine the effects that then has on the society. Not good. Personally, I'm all for a meritocracy. I think you need, I believe people given as much as possible, give people an equal chance. But beyond that, let them get on with it. Ignore the colour, ignore race, ethnic differences, religious differences, sexual differences, all that. Just can you do what it is you're being selected to do? Can you do it better than other people? If you can, you get the job. You want the classic examples of this, of course, are like, if you're sitting in an aeroplane, do you want your pilot to be there because he fulfilled some imaginary quota that someone's made up, that he's the right sexual persuasion or something, he's gay or something, or he's the right ethnic makeup, whatever that might happen to be? Or would you like him to be the very best pilot that was available for the money? In my case, the latter. Much the same could be said about surgery. Would you want somebody operating on your heart who is primarily in the job because he fulfilled a quota? Or would you want him to actually be able to do the job as well, to the best of the possibilities that were available to the people hiring him? Was he the best that they could get for the money? I think again the latter. You want somebody who can actually do the job. So yeah, equality failed. Well, a very nice sounding notion in theory, but even a moment's examination, even a moment's thought about it, shows it to be deeply flawed in practice. And historically, when people have tried to push it, it's been an utter failure. And to this day, within our society presently, where they're experimenting with all these ideas of quotas and all that, dismal failures, and lead to a profound lowering of standards. And that's not good for a healthy society. It's all a little mad, to be honest. It's all a little wishful thinking. We wish the world was like this, We wish it was all this glorious idea of mythical equality and all that sort of thing. But the reality is, I'm afraid, quite the contrary. Okay, on that note, I think I'll leave this chat for today. Try to get another one done for next week. Busy times at the moment, so a little difficult to get these things done, but I will attempt to do something. As ever, like, subscribe, comment, all that sort of thing, and I hope you have a good week in the meantime. Take care for now.